Hello, everybody. This is Aaron Dowdy, aka RP Grizzly, coming back to you with another message that God's put on my heart this wonderful Sunday evening with the rain. I don't know if you can hear it, possibly loud children, but that's how we handle things. And doing this message to the same people again, especially if you heard last week's message and you pursued Christ afterwards. This is particularly for you guys. When you're in a season of waiting, when you're in a situation where you're jobless or your job's not providing enough and you're just eking by and it feels like life is just an endless cycle and you're getting nowhere. It's just a rat race, but you're slowly getting older and your rat race is making you die and you feel like you're accomplishing nothing and you're getting nowhere and you might as well have never even been born, right? You guys, this is a message for you guys. I've been there. God knows what you're going through. And let me tell you, God wants more for you than that. He didn't send his son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross to save your soul so you can just languish somewhere and die, to provide and then get fleeced by the government or the various factions and other things and then die. You didn't just sit here to be put into a rat race and die. You were here for more, a lot more. But you got to prepare for that. And here comes the ding. Woo! We're just going to keep going. I might edit that out. But, yeah, I'm using a different computer and it's dinging at me. Anyway, so we're going to start with Moses this evening. And in Exodus chapter 24, verse 12, if you guys have Bibles to follow along at all, Moses is told to go up onto the mountain to be with God and to be on the mountain. Now, this is an important turn of phrase. It's not just, him repeating himself. No, he's telling Moses an important message. When he goes up to be with God, he needs to have his mind focused on God. He shouldn't be thinking about how he's going to get down, or what he's going to do with the Israelites when he gets down, or what the annoying little person next door is doing, or the dog's barking, or in our case, the boomer dad told you need to get a job again. Why can't you get a job? You used to blah 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 blah, or something like that, or you just the boss has treated you absolutely horrible and there's nothing you can do about it and you feel trapped and you came home, whatever, all that stuff. You don't think about that. You need to concentrate on God right now. In any time of waiting, God needs to be your concentration. You need to do more than wait around. This should be productive waiting for you. Not only is this better for your soul, being active and not idle, but it will prepare you for what God has coming. And let me tell you, I don't care how bad your situation looks, right? Trust me, it can always get worse. And your situation can change in a drop of a hat, just out of nowhere. One moment you could be homeless, the next minute you'll be at a wonderful job or wonderful house or just family and things happening out of nowhere. And you may say that's crazy. I've known so many situations, both in my life and in others, where it looks absolutely hopeless. Not too long ago, I was stuck in a situation with my four kids and my wife in a horrible house. We had no prospects, nowhere to go. We couldn't afford rent in even that horrible place. I was jobless, and the money was gone. The EBT was running out. The car wasn't running, so I couldn't even go to places. Our phones got turned off. Briefly, we were able to get them turned on for this next part. And then one day, God provided, and we were on our way to a family member who opened up their house to us, and it's been wonderful. Just out of nowhere. One moment, it looked like we were going to be stuck on the street in Arizona weather. So uh, that's actually really dangerous when you start to think that my kids are like the youngest is like 2. That being in 120-degree weather, you can die to that when you're that young. It was a really scary situation, and it gets that hot in the Arizona desert where we were. So the idea of being homeless was pretty scary. Not gonna lie, but God provided, and the next thing you know, we were on cloud nine. God got us provision so that I could actually get us out there. Gas. We got the car running with it. We got our phones turned back on. Uh, it was amazing. But let me tell you, right up to the point that He provided, everything looked like a nightmare. I still don't know how we kept it together, but we stuck to God and we were as productive as we could. And this is why I'm coming to you, right? Joseph was a man in the Bible who was sold into slavery by his own brothers. And when he was there, he was betrayed by his master's wife, who basically did the first Me Too movement. She lied and said that he tried to rape her, which he didn't. He actually ran from her. She was trying to seduce him and he ran. But he left some of his clothes behind and she claimed that he tried to come at her. And so he was thrown in prison after that. And in prison, he languished and then told a couple guys who were in the court of Pharaoh, the Egyptian king, who got thrown into prison with him. He explained their dreams, and they went up, and they were one was freed and one was put to death, exactly as he said they would. And the one who was freed completely forgot about him for years, up until the point that Pharaoh had a dream, and the cupbearer, the guy whose dream was interpreted by Joseph with God's power, remembered this guy in prison that he met who could interpret dreams. And next thing you know, Joseph goes from being a man in prison to being the number two, only subservient to Pharaoh in the entire land of Egypt, which is, they give you kind of, like this, Egypt was the superpower of the day. It's like being made, like coming from prison and going right into the vice presidency, that kind of thing, and not like a lame duck vice president, like the kind of one where the president actually relies on him to do everything. That kind of level of change. That's intense. And God did that in a day. I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen, but that's how fast things can change. I know it looks horrible right now. Okay? That's how fast it can change. It can also be a process. David, King David, I know there's lots of King David stuff going on. There's movies, there's all kinds of things, right? I haven't watched any of them. I'm a little worried because I don't think any of them are going to do things justice properly. I don't trust Hollywood at all, or even most side things. But David was hunted by Saul in a cave for years. And then he was basically exiled for years in a town, all far away from his family, far away from his wife, and all this other stuff. He did marry other wives, but God brought him back. And even then, it was still a process. He only got half the kingdom and had to fight a civil war to gain the rest of his kingdom. And then he had to fight everyone around him who didn't want him to be king. And he expanded the borders and had to fortify. It was a huge, long process that steady increments. There were moments where it seemed like all those increments fell apart. Yeah, I don't know if they show it in the shows or whatever, but there's this moment where his followers and everyone, they're given a town in the Philistine lands, and they go off to war. But the Philistine generals were like, "Isn't this guy like they're going against Israel? Like, why is he here? We don't trust him." And so the Philistine king sends him back, and they're dejected. And when they get back, they find out that their town has been raided by I forget who they were, but it's just there were so many different raiding tribes around that time, and all of their wives, all of their children, because they'd been there for a while, had been taken off and all their wealth, and they were so distraught that they were threatening to stone David. Like, think about this. He's come from going low. Like he has his meteoric rise where he kills Goliath and he's like put into the entourage of the king. He marries the king's daughter, and then he's cast out by the king, hunted to die, has to live in a cave. And then he crawls his way out with God's help and gets a town and followers and an established life for a bit. And then that's ripped away from him again. And it seems like he's back to square one and his followers are going to kill him. But he prays to God and they rally together. They chase down these guys and they end up catching them on the road where they're like basically enjoying all their spoils. They kill all of them. They get a bunch of spoils back. They take everybody back. Everyone gets their wife and kid back. And from there is a direct domino effect where soon Saul dies. The king was trying to hunt him, and he eventually gains the throne in Israel and eventually takes all of Israel. But you see that incremental steps, right? It wasn't a straight up. Sometimes it's straight, whew, like Joseph. You're like boom, 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 boom. It's like a fulcrum where you're putting things up, you're putting things up, you're putting things up, and nothing seems to be happening, and then clunk, suddenly God makes it happen just like that. Other times you have ups and downs, and just like a stock market or something else, you gotta ride it and get it to the top. And you gotta trust God for the whole process. This isn't an easy path, all right? I'm not, you know, we're not talking about laziness or idleness. That is death. Idleness is death. That's when all the devil's thoughts and everything will just stick in your head and corrupt you, and you'll get just hooked on things like. There's nothing wrong with video games, but when you turn to video games to fill that vapidness in your heart, like anyone, like someone who does that with alcohol, there's nothing wrong with alcohol, but if you try to fill the emptiness inside you with alcohol, right? Anything you do that with, music, books, family members, even like time, like if you're trying to fill that God heart, that part of you that needs that meaning, that desire to keep working, that desire to see the kingdom of heaven grow, to see something amazing happen, to be part of something bigger than yourself, right? You try to fill that with something, you're just going to feel empty and dead afterwards. And the danger in video games is it gives you that feeling that you're accomplishing something, but when it's done, it's done. And you haven't, and there's nothing there. So keep that in your mind. Keep those things, those pleasures, those fun, right? You're not going to work yourself to death. Just keep them in the right amount of appropriate time. That's all. That's all you need to do. You might need to take a break from stuff. Maybe a break from alcohol. Maybe a break from, for all I know, you fish too much or something, right? Maybe you need to take a little bit of a break and concentrate on God more. That's fine, right? But you need your escapes. Just do not let that be what you live for. Don't let that idleness consume you. Don't give up. Because when you let that stuff consume your entire life, that's you giving up. That's you thinking it's never going to get better. I'm just going to wait around until I die. That's what you're telling your brain. That's what your brain's getting told. And it's going to respond with, well, why function? Why do anything other than this? And you're worth more than that, and God's waiting for you. Okay, so there's also the element in this time of like just stress and the little things getting into your mind, right? The important part about being on the mountain, being there in your time of waiting, being there in that desert place, right? The Israelites stuck in the desert for 40 years, God molding them into something that could fight and conquer Canaan, the land of giants and monsters, right? God can mold you right now, but you got to let him. Understand, in those 40 years, an entire generation of Israelites had to be killed off because they were too stubborn, too stiff-necked, and would not listen to God. All right, so don't be like that. Don't be like them. Be like their children who allowed God to shape them into something that could conquer giants. And that's what he wants out of you. So, uh, the Bible talks about on the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus Christ, it's like Matthew 28 or something, right? The Sermon on the Mount, he tells us not to worry so much about the material, right? He says, which one of you can add a second to your life by worrying about it? Right? No one. Your worry does nothing but stress you out and take you away from God and strangle his voice so you can't hear it anymore. And Jesus Christ also talks about in the parable of the seeds, right? God, the seeds being the God's voice and God calling you in the salvation, right? And it goes on to various different things, but the one I want to concentrate here is the good soil that's full of weeds. And when the seed grows up, God's voice, God's growth, they sprout up quick, and then the weeds of life choke them out. The voices in your head, the boomer parents. Why aren't you getting a job yet? Why haven't you made any money yet? Wait, you're only making this? Why aren't you getting more money? Money. And it's all materialism, material worry. All of it. And God is telling you, you live on more than bread alone. And you really do. You need more than that. And in this time of waiting, you need to feed that part of you. Right? You're going to have to depend on God for the material and keeping you alive. Right? We're in a state where we're actually like that now. The times are that tough, and they're getting tougher, and they're only going to get tougher. But God will see you through. Depend on Him and His provision. It's gonna get scary. It's gonna get hairy. Trust me, He knows. There was a time where Elijah was the first one, uh, had to survive in the desert with just water and whatever food ravens gave him. Like God had the ravens bring him food, and he just subsisted on that for a while. I mean, he was at a point. This might have been Elisha, where widows were having to give them their last bit of bread during a famine. Right? But God was with Elijah the entire time. The entire time. As crazy as it got for him. And He will be with you too. So, what should you do right now? Right, we've established a few things you shouldn't do. You shouldn't allow those worries about the material, those voices, and say, your parents just want to go on another cruise. All right, they're not that hurt. They're not that damaged. They can take some time to help you out. It's okay, right? Uh, the job, it sucks being in a job that just drains your life away. Just drains it. I get it, right? But don't let it consume you, and don't just escape into video games or escape into movies or escape into books or just turn your brain off at the end of the night. As tempting as it is, you got to do a little bit more. And just a little bit more. Just a little bit more each night. And you got to take advantage of your weekends. You got to take advantage of those times. Because whatever job you're doing now, inflation's going to take it away. Like whatever savings you get, inflation, all of it, it's going to go away. This month, the dollar is on the chopping block. Nobody knows how much time we have. I mean, if it goes by other currencies, 2033 is it's the would be when the dollar dies. Would if it follows trends of other currencies that have died. Hey, that's not a prophecy. Okay, that's economics. This is more something for a different different venue than these Sunday talks, these Sunday sermon type things. But understand that it's more important right now that you stick to God, because His will, His power is never inflated. It never goes away. The moths, the rust, the tax man, the foreigners taking it, none of it can be taken from you. God is the only one that can give it, and God is the only one who can take it away. He fills you up so you can be poured out again. So, hang in there. Be strong. But we need to be, when we're in our time of waiting, productive and not idle. This is really, really important. I can't stress how important it is. For three main categories. Starting with the least important, your body. Honestly, I need to work on this part right now. I really do. And that is physically your body. This war, yes, we fight. It's not against. Why does everything have to chime when I'm recording? But we fight against more than flesh and blood. Yes, it's a spiritual fight, but it is also a physical fight. So do not let your body go. God can work with whatever He needs to work with. He can work with a cripple if He needs to. However, the more you have to offer, the more He can do with you. Just the less power He has to expend to get you over He's going to use what tools you give Him. So if you have time on your hands, and even if you don't, start working your body. Start getting it in shape. Not only will you feel better, but you'll have more to offer when God comes a calling. You need to be ready. So one of the the pieces of armor of God, right? It's an analogy. You might not have heard of it. Paul brings through basically these various aspects that protect us from evil. And one of them that is often overlooked is it's like the sandals of readiness, or shoes of readiness, boots of readiness, whatever you want to call it. Basically, your feet being ready. You ready to act when God says it's time to go. You need to get yourself ready. And it might be a physical thing. It might require physical effort. So get your body ready, and He'll be there, and He'll bless that. So that's the least important, but still important, right? Second most important is your mind. While you're in this state of idleness, work your mind. Uh, Read books, learn skills. You have time on your hands. Think about, uh, and even if you're working, get a skill going in your off hours. Not only will it help your sanity, having something for your mind to work for when you have that blisteringly dead job that's taking away all your life, all of your effort, right? Stuff that away when you get home. Any skill, even if it's just drawing or writing. So AI is taking away. No, no, no. The AI, it's a tool that helps people of that sort. You can build with it, right? Don't let that stop you from building the skill, right? Get the skill. Do practical skills. Uh, it, you're probably a little hurting for funds, but if you can, something like welding's great. Working with your hands, hiking. I guess that's still kind of number one, but you get the point. Get some skills, get some knowledge. Start molding yourself into something that God can use all the more, and He'll guide that process. That's your mind. That's number two. That's more important than the body. They're both important, but they're all subservient to the third and most important one, and that's the being on the mountain part, and that is God. Getting in the Word, getting into the Bible, getting praying to God, listening for His voice, learning to discern, letting the discerning Spirit from God rest upon you, so you can weed out all the lies and deal with the weeds and the worries and the voices in your head that are trying to destroy you. You family having fun. Um, you have to let God mold you right now. And that's why it's the most important thing. All three are really important. All three. But the most important, spirit. Is the fight for the kingdom of heaven is threefold. Spirit, mind, body. The physical, the mental, and the spiritual. All three are part of this fight, and you can't ignore any of them. Though, in order of importance, spirit first, mind second, body next. But sometimes it, it may make sense to start with body because it helps you get into a process, so you're more likely to say, okay, after I work out, I read my Bible, that kind of thing. It helps get your mind focused. Okay, we're not idle anymore. We're not just sitting there. When Joseph was a slave, when he was in the prison, he was not idle. He was actively working and working as hard as he could, to the point where his master put him in charge of the entire household, which was he was so good at his job that that's how he got Potiphar's wife, his master's wife's attention, because he was a little too attractive and a little too good at his job. Chicks kind of, it depends on the job. Basically, he got a cougar's attention, and it was very unpleasant. The Bible has lots of fun stories. But when he was in prison, he also was not idle, even in prison. And the prison warden ended up putting him like in charge of the entire prison for him to manage. So take after Joseph and actively work your spirit, your mind, and your body. Get yourself ready for when God acts, because it'll come out of you out of nowhere. This in Revelations it says that when God returns, it'll be like a thief in the night. Well, when God's provision comes, it's just gonna fall in your lap one day. You might see it start to come in, and then it's gonna be a pop. But when it happens, it's gonna blow you away, and you need to be ready for when it happens, ready to act. And part of this also is probably the most unpleasant part, is you need to be cheerful in your service right now. I know it's God, I know it's hard. I know it's so hard, especially with people treating you like dirt. Often, especially when it comes to like boomer parents and stuff, they've actively created a world and a situation that has put you in the situation you're in. And honestly, they're going to pay for that one day, but you, especially since if you're living in their house or you're living around it or whatever is the situation, you need to actively practice your service. You need with a smile. Wash the dishes. Mow the lawn. Do it without being asked. And, if you're jobless right now, you're going to have a little more time to do that. Do those things. You might actually start to feel better about it too, right? And do it with a smile and a cheerful voice. Ignore it, right? The boomers and a lot of Gen Xers, they love the verse, uh, that Paul says, where he says, children obey your parents, but they want to ignore the next part, which says parents do not exasperate your children. And I don't think we can think of a single generation that's more exasperating than the boomers, and we all feel it and we all know it. But you control you. Don't be excessively disrespectful. Get it done. Ignore the crap they say because it doesn't matter. Concentrate on God, building up and getting ready. Let your AI resume bot thing handle the job search to keep them happy, right? You concentrate on God and for Him and what His eventual uh, answer in a prayer and the beautiful plan He has. Because let me tell you, this is going to end. You're going to look back one day and go, I don't even remember what it was like to be stuck in that house. I remember when I was angsty and not married and couldn't get a girlfriend. Well, not exactly. More like it never worked out. I had prospects, but it's neither here nor there. And then I got my wife. I don't even remember what it's like to be single anymore. And it's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm a father now. I barely remember what it was like to be just married without kids. This can happen to you too. All right? I've had my ups and downs. I was jobless before I got my wife. You know, I managed. Oh, God, the rain's coming down now. I don't know if you guys hear that, right? I kind of like David, had my ups and downs, and I'm in kind of a down shroom, and God's saying coming back up, and you need to not be idle. You need to practice your service. If you're in that horrible job, I'm not going to tell you to don't waste yourself. Okay, there's a difference between doing your job right, following the rules right, and not wasting yourself on something that's just draining you and has nothing for you, right? So put in what you got to do. Don't kill yourself there. Save your strength for the skills you're learning, for the knowledge you're gaining, for the working out, and for God, most importantly. Do the bare minimum. Do a little bit more. Do it with a smile on your face, right? Work it out. Get it done. Live for getting out of it, right? And you will. And God will be there for you. But you're stuck there now. It's no fun being in the desert, figuratively. Lots of nice places in the desert, right? There's no fun being in that prison cell like Joseph. No fun being a slave. But God will get you through. So go to Him. Go to Jesus Christ in this time of waiting. If any of this resonated with you guys and you're really fascinated by it, but you don't know who Jesus Christ is, please follow the link in the video. I'll leave it to the first one. It has a wonderful altar call for you guys, and I recommend you go to it. I'm going to be doing these sermons every Sunday because, let's face it, none of you guys want to go to a boomer church, a Gen X church, or even a millennial church. And no one's making churches for Gen Z these days. No one's making it for Gen Alpha, or even millennials like me who find themselves in this situation yet again. So, stick with it. I'll be here every Sunday. Join us every Monday. We're going to have a more in-depth Sunday school lesson. That's going to be more like an hour-long live stream. Should be at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Join us for that. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. God loves you. And hang in there.